So, the devs released some stats. Some good old stats and data. And it's... let's just say people are mad. So, it's... yeah, this is going to be very strange. Yeah, so the devs released some stats today. And these stats, I feel, are not the most... well, okay, we'll see here. Okay, I've already read these, but I do want to go over a little bit of detail with them. Because there's some problems with these stats. And they do go into here that these stats are very broad. But trying to paint a full picture from some of these stats is going to be insane. Alright. Popular Survivor perks. Top 10 Survivor perks in the game. Windows of Opportunity, Adrenaline, Life, Resilience. Is it Dark Sense or Deja Vu? I think it's Deja Vu. Yeah, it's Deja Vu. Self-Care, Sprint Burst, Dead Hard, Bond, Kindred. Every single one of these makes sense, except for Self-Care, until you think about it. The reason why Self-Care is as high as it is because, one, it's a very new player, not only friendly perk, but it's a very trappy perk. In the sense that a lot of people know it's not good, but a lot of new players still run it anyways. Windows of Opportunity is often... it's told new players should run it so they can get better at the game, and experienced players run it because it helps them not get into dead zones and whatnot. Adrenaline is a very good last-second survival perk. Basically, it's like a trump card at the very last minute of the game. Life is just a more controllable sprint burst. Dead Hard is good for anti-tunneling. It's good against a lot of the precision killers, etc., etc. Resilience means that you're not as vulnerable when you're weakened or when you're injured. Deja Vu is good at stopping 3 gens. It also makes gens go faster. Bond is a great information perk, and I've said this before, Bond is probably my crutch perk on Survivor. I almost always run it because the information it gives you is so valuable. Same with Kindred. I think the only thing, because all of these are basically the same, they've more just moved some places around. All of these make sense to me. And I heard some people saying this means that Windows is going to get nerfed. It's not. Okay, Windows isn't going to get nerfed, and I don't think it needs to be nerfed. The reason it's up here is because it's a utility perk that does its job very well. Killer perks. This is actually the more interesting one to me. This is the more interesting one to me. Pop Goes the Weasel, Pain Res, Sloppy, Jolt, Corrupt, Stabiffle, Barbecue and Chili, Noed, Lethal, Bamboozle. So, of all of these, I can't think of a single one in here that makes no sense. Now, also remember, this is from January 29th, so this is before Stabiffle's nerf. So that also needs to be accounted for. And Lethal actually was, I believe, number 4 last time. It went down, and so did Barbecue. And I have a feeling I know why these two perks dropped down in use. I have a very, very, very hard feeling that it was a distortion. But yeah, all 5 of the killer perks, it's slowdown. It's the best slowdowns in the game. Jolt went down in use, and I can promise you it's because Stranger Things came back, so now it's not a general perk, and newer players can't use it. Bamboozle's there because there's a few killers, a lot of the M1 killers that can use this very well, same with Stabiffle. It basically completes their kit to a degree. But Pop and Pain Res, of course, they're number 1 and 2. Corrupt being up here too, because people like me like it so they don't get immediately gen rush at the beginning of the match. And Sloppy because basically every killer can make use out of Sloppy. No, it's a weird one, but this is probably mostly new players because a lot of better killers don't really run it too much. Killer pick rate. Now, they actually gave us the pick rate for all the killers. Once again, it needs to be noted. This is from December 30th to January 29th. Okay? So this is still when Chucky was the newest killer. So him being up here makes the most sense. Yeah, of course. Then we have Huntress, who's sitting pretty where she's always has, and Wraith, where he always has. These two killers are both basically free. And one of them is probably the most popular killer in the game. Legion, he's very good for new players and people like me who just want to turn their brain off and stab people. Wesker went down, and I'm assuming that's because Chucky kind of took his place for a little while. Trapper is Trapper. He's like the killer. He's like the #1 killer for new players. Myers is just a very famous license and very easy for newer players as well. Nurse is up here mostly because a lot of very good players can play her a lot. Same with Blight. Ghostface is probably the most surprising one on this list, if I'm being honest. Ghostface being up this high is extremely surprising to me. He's not that good, but like, I guess he's fun and unique and different, and he's a decently famous license. He's got a lot of skins. He's a pretty popular character in general, so maybe that's why. But we did get all the killers. Now this is in descending order, so we do know that this is actually in order. Dr. Deathslinger, Spirit, Nemi, Trickster, Clown, Oni, Xenomorph. All of these being where they are is actually very odd to me. Xenomorph is weird. Xenomorph being 3% and like in the middle of the pack. Because they were like the #1 killer on the last stats we got. And I guess it just proves the point that like being the new kid on the block really, really, really ups those stats. Right? Hillbilly, Plague, Onryo, Executioner, Demogorgon, Cannibal, Cenobite, average. Skull Merchant at 2%, that's still a little higher than I thought it would be. Same with Pig and Dredge. This is the 4 I want to talk about. Artist, Hag, Nightmare, and Twins. Twins being 1, fine, makes sense. Freddy, fine, makes sense. Hag, as much as Gummy hates me for saying this, makes sense. Artist in Singularity, though. Like, I guess Singularity does make sense to me. He's a very, he's a killer that a lot of people don't really want to put the time in to learn, so that makes sense. But Artist? Artist is at 1%. Why? I legitimately do not understand why she's at 1%. No shade at Artist players. I don't think she's that difficult to play, at the very least. I don't think she's boring. I think she has some good skill expression. She's got some killer cosmetics. She has arguably the best teachable perks in the game. Like, I don't understand how she's so low. Like, I really don't. I just don't get it. And this is going to be important later, by the way. All of these stats right here, we're cross-referencing these because I'm a fucking nerd. With this. Deadliest killers. Alright. So, there are a few on here that have gotten people's eyebrows to raise a bit. Now, it should be noted, Behavior did state in this that DCs don't count as a kill. The disconnecting doesn't count as a kill. Alright? Let that be known. Skull Merchant has a 70% kill rate. Now, if we go over to her play rate, 2%. Because not a lot of people are playing her. Which means most of the people playing Skull Merchant are probably people who know what they're doing. Which means for the people who don't just want to go next because they don't like playing against Skull Merchant and giving up instantly, they're playing against people who know exactly what they're doing and will probably dominate the lobby because of that. And I think that's the same thing with Onryo. Now remember, this is before her current rework, so this is the last rework as well. Like it's the same situation with this. I think it's the same with Pinhead. I think after Pinhead, though, the next ones, in my opinion, are the most interesting. Freddy has a 63% kill rate. How? How? Like, once again, this is the thing with this, and I mentioned this before. These numbers don't mean anything unless we have other numbers to cross them with, right? Because this is all MMRs. So are new players inflating this, or is it because there's only 1% of Freddy players, and are they inflating it because they're just that good? Is it people giving up on Hook because they don't like playing against Freddy because he's, quote, boring? Like, that's the thing. I don't know. Legitimately, like, I'm baffled by. This is the only one I'm, like, kind of baffled by. Dredge is another one I'm baffled by, but we'll get to him in a second. It just... How? Plague being up here makes sense. I think Plague is actually kind of slept on, with how good she can be. Pig, its head pops against new players. I can promise you that's what it is. I'm going to skip Dredge and we're coming back to him. Spirit, S-tier killer. Myers, it's because of Tombstone. Because even if he loses a match, if he brings Tombstone, he's almost guaranteed to get at least 1 or 2 kills. Wesker, he's played by a lot of people, and he's a pretty good killer, so it inflates that a little bit. Dredge, though. Let's see. Pick rate on Dredge. Dredge. 2%! How? Like, Dredge isn't terrible, but how? I don't understand. Like, he has no inherent slowdown, either. That's the thing. Like, you can make that excuse with Freddy and Onryo and Pinhead. It's like, they have slowdown in their kit. So, like, there's a third objective. That might be causing it to go up. Okay, fair enough. What about Dredge, though? Once again, part of me suspects it's those 2% of people are just so good at Dredge. They're upping the numbers that high. Like, I don't know. It's nuts to me. Beyond that, Executioner at 60, Hag at 60, Artist at 60. Where is Chucky? 58%. That sounds about right. As much as people like to complain about how good Chucky is, he has no map mobility and no inherent slowdown in his kit. And the lowest kill rate is Doctor. That's actually kind of funny. The lowest. It's Doctor of all the killers. Wow. And Nurse is on here super low too. That's mostly because a lot of people try and play her and do very badly with her. That's basically what happens. Yeah, it's just... These stats are so... Like, I need other numbers to compare these stats to, and I just don't... They haven't given them. Okay, this was the one that sparked a lot of controversy. Okay, so to explain what these stats are. So this is survival rates based on number of players grouped together and at high MMR. Now, behavior doesn't say on here what high MMR is, at least I don't think they do. They also include survival rates for high MMR survivors as well as those players. These numbers do not blah 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 blah. Yeah, so they didn't, and from what I understand, it's the top 5% is what high MMR is considered to behavior. So yeah. So the two survivors and 3 survivors, nobody cares about that. These are fine. The 2 I'm more curious about talking about are the 4 survivor and the solo survivor. And the reason why is, how is solo survivor at high MMR? How does that have a less of a survival rate than overall? Like, statistically speaking, that shouldn't make any sense. Like, I don't understand. Is it because it's less of a group or more of a group size, I guess? I don't know. This one makes no sense. But the one that everyone was talking about on Twitter was this one. The four-man Swiff. So, statistically speaking, if you are playing in a 4-man Swiff, you have a 3% better chance of surviving than you do if you play solo queue. And that's it. Just a 3% extended chance. People were so surprised by this number because they didn't understand how it could be this low. And a lot of people were basically saying it's because when I play Swift, I'm just like chatting with my friends, not really caring about the game. So it's going to bring it down. And essentially what it comes down to. It's a lot of people just hanging out with their friends and not caring and not doing the optimal thing. If anything, I would say this is probably the sweatiest ones right here. Is three Swifts, or 3 Swifts and 2. Not solo, not 4-mans. I think it's these 2 actually. But also statistically speaking, if you're a high MMR, you have a 9% better chance of surviving in a Swift, which is nuts to me. But it's still not above 50%. But Behavior has said this is where they want the statistics to be. 60-40 is where they want everything. With a couple exceptions, which is basically everyone above this list, they're fine with everything, everything where it's at. Which is just interesting to me. I don't know what they're gonna do with Skull Merchant. Like I said, I would love to know what the stats right here are based on people who killed themselves on hook and went next. I really would. But yeah, let me know what y'all think of the killer stats and whatnot. I'm genuinely curious. A lot of these, I don't think there's enough info to go off of here. It's still nice to see, but I wish we would get more. That's all. Okay, guys, I love y'all. Have a good one. Yeah, and bye.